Hello, my name is DuFay, and welcome to the YouTube channel Mandela Effect equals knowledge. I want to use this video as a backdrop. This was captured in West Valley City, Utah, just about a week or so ago by a friend of mine who has a YouTube channel, Mary Hall. She monitors webcams in the ISS and things like that. But this is fascinating. What the heck is that? You know, uh, Earlier something went by, but I assume that was an airplane. But what is this? It's phenomenal. We can zoom in on it. I mean, it's clearly a globe. And it's also not a artifact from the camera or glare or anything like that, because the glare shows up elsewhere. Plus the light is, camera's making this happen with the moon. You got to keep in mind this is the moon. So what is this, a second moon? You know what I mean? But anyway, it eventually disappears. But what I want to talk about is the fact that what the Mandela Effect is revealing, which is, this is my mouse, of course, which is, that obviously everything is parallel, literally everything. Now science is starting to realize that our, atoms and things like that are quantumly connected, and they kind of focus just on that. But obviously, everything is, you know, made up of atoms. So, basically everything, including constellations. So, from atoms to constellations, everything is parallel. I know I used to get a lot of questions about, why do we see the constellations? Well, of course, you're going to see them in every single reality. And another real important thing that the Mandela Effect is revealing is that we do have this parallel existence, but it is not they're not separated by dimensions or anything. There are dimensions, of course. There's the spirit realm and things like that, that we are unable to access, most of us. But anyway, the fact is what the Mandela Effect's revealing is that it's a distance that separates our reality. I believe this is a plane too, of course. But that, what the heck is that thing? But anyway, really interesting is it's the distance that that separates our reality, and the only reason we can come to that obvious conclusion is we're in a completely different location within the Milky Way galaxy. Many of us recall being on the outer reaches of the Sagittarius Arm. But here we are very close to the galactic center, where we're astrophysicists out on the outer reaches of the Sagittarius Arm said that life could not even exist. But yet here we are. So that's why I know every time we shift in this quantum shifting, this flux, when our soul goes into that flux, and every portion of our soul shifts into another version of ourselves. I liken it like musical chairs. When your portion of your soul that you'll always have, the one you were born with, the one that has your memories, it can never intermingle with the other portions. So once you shift into another replica version of yourself, which is obviously apparently happening, then the soul portion that was in that version of yourself simply went into another version. It's just like goes around in a whole full circle. It's just like musical chairs, but without the elimination that occurs in the game. But the thing is every portion of your soul is experiencing this, and making us realize, that every time we do shift and we recognize it. I mean, I've had it happen so many times personally that I don't even know when it happens. The only way I know is when I look around and slight variations and things here and there, like taking a trip on some of these Michigan roads. I noticed that some of them, familiar routes I take. Some areas, the hill seems to be more of a hill and things like that. It's interesting. But the big thing is looking on Google Earth and realizing that it's a completely different Earth, because there's subtle. Most of the time it's subtle, but sometimes it's drastic differences. And again, it's really important to realize that it's not. Things are not changing whatsoever. That word has to be out of the vocabulary when it comes to the Mandela Effect, because things are not changing. They're just different. You're in a different reality that you've always been in. There's a replica version of yourself that's been sharing your soul since the day you were born in this replica version of yourself, in this reality. And you didn't even know about it until your soul portion, the one you were born with, shifted into these different versions of yourself. Now, I'm thoroughly convinced, and I believe in a lot of the Hopi prophecies. One of them being things like this happening, the airplane clouds and how they spray aerosols in the sky. I believe that's a prophecy coming fulfilling, because they talked about spider web, the sky being like spider webs. And so one of the agents in the aerosols that they spray up there is actually something that they derived from the spider, the web part of them, so they formulated it in a chemical, and that's what binds everything together up there. So I think it's ironic. But another very big prophecy that the Hopi talked about, which is very important, is there's going to be a soul cleansing. And this is really phenomenal, because think about this. How many times have we shifted? Each of us, perhaps 100, maybe more. But every time you do, the portion of your soul, the one you were born with, the one you'll always have this. You'll never, soul portions will never skip among themselves. Each portion of your soul has its own memory from its own original reality, and each portion of your soul is shifting right when you do. There's one ahead of you and there's one behind you at all times, shifting into. So could you imagine what that does to your soul? It's doing things to our soul that are we can't even comprehend at this point. And I thoroughly believe that that's exactly what the Mandela Effect is doing, is cleansing our soul, especially when you come to realize exactly what's going on. And the Mandela Effect is so revealing. It's revealing that, who would have ever dreamed there's a countless number of Earths within the Milky Way galaxy, or at least for sure on the Orion arm and the Orion spur and the Sagittarius arm, which are all one of the same. So we know for sure that from the tip to the very close to the galactic center where we are right now is full of Earths. Because I remember the initial shifts, what was that, a couple years back or so, maybe 3 years back already. The initial shifts were in realities where the Earth was like mid-size. So it's interesting that we get to experience super Earths, mid-size Earths, and dwarf Earths. And I wish I would have paid more attention to the mid-size Earth, because at that time I was still not really aware of what was going on. I was still, trying to figure it out, watching videos, getting bored with what the change, the things that appear to be changing, logos and things like that. I was more interested in what's going on. I wanted to get into the meat and potatoes of this. So I was still trying to grasp what's going on. And the only thing you can do is, from your own experience, figure it out. I mean, the answers are right there in front of everybody. And I'm not the one. Nobody told me or anything. That's the best way to be taught something or be told something, is to experience it, and that's what the Mandela Effect's doing. It's and getting back to the constellations. Why do we see the constellations in every reality? The incredible thing is they even vary, the constellations themselves. But the thing about the constellations, and to me, when I started seeing the answers, and believe me, they come, especially when you have a positive attitude. But the thing that got to me right away about the constellations is, wow, that's the beauty of it all. The constellations certainly are going to be in every reality. This moon is in every reality, albeit with different cycles. But the cycles have to be different, simply because the Earths are so small here. Everything's smaller. The solar system, the sun, everything's smaller than what we recall. But it's interesting, and also what it's really showing us, with the constellations, again, it's really important to realize is imagine yourself looking up at the sky, in the night sky, and you can see the constellation of Orion. Now take the three belts in Orion, and and realize that those stars, no doubt, have Earths around them, and they're looking, and you're looking at this star, or not, picture this. This is the moon, of course, but they're looking at our sun, and, you're looking at our sun, and you're looking at that sun. You know what I'm saying? It's just incredible. So basically, of course, our sun is a star, and of course, you could see it as a star from a very, very distant light years away. But we're looking at Orion's belt. I don't know how many of those have Earths around them, and they're looking at our star, which could be part of the Orion's belt from their point of view. So it's interesting. That's that quantum entanglement. It doesn't. That's the important thing to realize about quantum entanglement, and science realizes this through their experiments, is there's no boundaries when it comes to distance. Of course, they can only assume that the distance is infinite. I mean, we're actually experiencing it. Like, we know that there's a portion of our soul, in the original body where you were born in. Of course, there's really no original version of yourself. They're all original. But your reality when you were born, it's just it's 75,000 light years from here. Think about that. Literally 75,000 light years from here. We know we have replica versions of ourselves because we were born there. We were there. We never knew that we were 75,000 light years in a completely identical, for the most part, reality. Think about it. We didn't know that, but the Mandela Effect is revealing all this to us, revealing just how important the quantum entanglement is and how far-reaching it is. Basically, straight up, quantum entanglement is the basic fundamental foundation of life. It really is. It's the thing that that's why we do the things we do. It's incredible. That's I've mentioned many times. I've often wondered, even when I was young, why do we automatically breathe and things like that? Why do we do certain things automatically? And it's a quantum entanglement. Think about it. It's incredible. And another thing that's amazing that many of us realize is those versions of ourselves where your portion of your soul originated. Those bodies are much different. I still cannot believe the location of the hearts in these replica versions of ourselves in these realities. They're huge, and they're dead center in the chest. It's quite amazing. Many other things internal that are obviously very different from what we recall. So we know, it's impossible to wake up one morning and have a body completely different inside. The location of the heart, everything. The ribs are totally different. It's just remarkable. So we know it didn't change overnight. So what else could it be? You're in this boundless, limitless quantum entanglement where distance does not matter. So when you do shift, it could be several hundred, it could be several tens of thousands of light years into another reality in the same dimension. It's really remarkable when you think about it, because everybody always seems to think and steer to the multiverse theory, where it's a different universe, a different reality, a different dimension, if you will. But again, of course, there's dimensions, but that's not what's going on. It's not a Rick and Morty thing. Every replica version of yourself is going to have identical reality for the most part. Now, I know many people are experiencing it different. Their realities vary considerably, but I can only speak of my own personal experience, which is at virtually identical realities in every time I shift. And it's amazing. This whole thing is just so amazing, but yet you can't talk about it. Everybody, most of the people around us are not affected. They still have the portion of their soul they were born with, so nothing has changed. Nothing's different to them. It's as it always was. And you were always here in this reality with their thoughts, at one time. But that portion of your soul that originated in this version of yourself when it was born is in a completely different sector of the Milky Way galaxy right now, experiencing the same reality. complete with its variations and differences, which are numerous, even locally. I grew up in the Chicago area, and I didn't realize I was affected with the Mandela effect till after I moved to Southwest Michigan. So it's such a rural area. Basically, you're not going to see much variations other than the roads and things like that when you really pay attention. Or the trees might be slightly different or slightly different location and things like that. But the fact is that tree is still there, and that tree is experiencing a parallel existence as well. In some realities, it might have got chopped down, and some it may not have, and things like that. But it's just incredible to realize how everything, the blade of grass, again, everything from atoms to constellations and everything in between is parallel. It's just incredible. You know, it's hard to, like, every time I shift, I can't help but look at the people around us and realize what the people especially, that you're looking at another replica version of the person you know and you've seen before, or perhaps all your life. But every time you shift, you get to experience and see another version of that person, in another reality. It's quite remarkable. And again, because it's important that they don't know, they're not experiencing it. Why some certain percentage of people are experiencing it, I don't know. I think it's something very highly spiritual. You know, I believe that. I don't get religious or theocratic at all, and I put some faith in the Bible. I look at it as a book of clues. And there's a verse in Revelation chapter 10, verse 7, that I always wondered about, even when I was a kid. What is the sacred secret? Or what, some versions say it's the mystery of God. What is all that? It's something that was going to be revealed, And immediately, when I realized I was affected with the Mandela effect, I immediately thought of the sacred secret or the mystery of God, where depending on what version you're reading, some of the versions are really cool the way they word it. But let's just call it, for the sake of argument or whatever, I would just call it sacred secret. So I thought, oh my God, the Mandela effect is the sacred secret. Oh my, it's the first thing I thought of. So again, I do believe in a lot in the Bible, but without some religious organization, trying to say what it means and things like that. But I think the Mandela effect is it's not only revealing paradoxes and things like that, but it's fulfilling prophecies, not just in the Bible, but like I said earlier, I believe in the Hopi prophecies, all of them, especially the one about the soul cleansing. That's another thing that's the sacred. I mean, think about it. The sacred secret is a perfect word for the Mandela effect or prophecy, because what could be more sacred than life? And what has been kept secret from us? The fact that we have life and similar realities throughout the Milky Way galaxy, all bound together with this quantum entanglement. I mean, who knows how many replica versions of ourselves are in these realities on these Earths in different locations in the Milky Way galaxy. I mean, so far, like I said, with me, it's over 100, easy, maybe more. Let's just hope we don't have to experience every version of ourselves in order for the soul to be cleansed, because again, who knows how many versions of ourselves there is. I know the shiftings happen in some cases almost daily. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, again, it's just, if someone's listening to you that's not experiencing this, they think you're nuts. But yet you're experiencing a miracle. Think about it. Like I said, you get to see different replica versions of people, and with their current soul portion that they were born with, and they'll always have. The one will always have too, but our soul portion is experiencing a miracle. We get to go in, visit different replica versions of ourselves in these very similar, unusually similar realities on these unusually similar Earths, but yet different, but yet the same. Even the time's different. The time's faster here, but yet time remains the same. Which proves it's irrelevant, Because if it was linear and the time was true, and the Earth's being 50% faster time, these dwarfers, I'd be 90 years plus years old right now in this reality. But I'm not. I'm the exact same age, born the exact same date. Many of you recognize that the day of the week you were born on is different from reality to reality. And that makes sense because, again, things have to be made up in order for this quantum entanglement to be maintained. And sometimes there's going to be hiccups and things like that. So that's why some people experience differently than others. But regardless, it's still a miracle if you think about it. And I know, in each reality, it seems, you're in a different reality, so it's easy to be scared and homesick and upset about it. But if you look at it differently and realize you were always here, this is your home, and how fortunate you are that you get to visit this replica version of yourself that existed since the day you were born and you didn't even know it. So to me, this is something that has always been yet never known, and there lies the secret. The sacred secret is being revealed. The very fact that we are quantumly entangled and have this parallel existence, all within the Milky Way galaxy, and perhaps beyond. But let's be realistic, and because we're talking galactic scale here, which to billions and billions of realities could be in here easily in this one dimension, and that's exactly what the Mandela Effect is proving, because this quantum entanglement would not work in other dimensions, because that again, they exist in every reality. In fact, those other dimensions are parallel to. In other words, heaven is parallel as well. And I never did believe in hell, so I don't know what to say about that. I'd say that basically living on Earth is hell, if you will. And sometimes being on these different realities, on these, Orion dwarfers, sometimes it seems darker than you remember. But you have to recall it's just the version of yourself that was born in this replica version of yourself, the portion of your soul. This is their home, so it's beautiful and incredible to them, and they might be in our reality that we recall, we originated from, and be thinking the same thing, that it's dark and everything. That's why you got to be really careful, and always be positive and appreciate the miracle as it is, and realize and enjoy the ride, if you will, because this is, who knows how long this is going to go on, the soul cleansing, if you will. And it does seem to be working. Like I said, if you have the right attitude and are real positive and look at this for what it is, because science is proving it. But we get to say, hey, you're on the right track, but it goes farther than that. It goes, everything you see, the whole reality and everything you see is throughout the entire Milky Way galaxy. Think about it. In who knows how many billions of realities. And it's all quantumly entangled in this, and that's no doubt what that dark matter is, that they're trying to figure out. Because it's what's incredible about the Mandela Effect. It's revealing so many things, and you wish you could just take some of those scientists and say, hey, this is what's happening, and I'm not telling you because it's a theory and I'm guessing and all that. I'm telling you because I'm experiencing it. How do you tell somebody that? Think about it. You can't. It's sad. But someday, they're going to come to the reality. I mean, they're already discovering exoplanets left and right. Planets that are in that Goldilocks zone around its sun, that star. They're finding thousands of them. So wait till they start being able to send probes to these places. Their realities on those exoplanets, which are no doubt Earths, are going to be sending the probes at the same time they do. And they're basically going to intersect in space and wind up back here. And first thing they're going to do is think, oh wow, it came back. But they might see a slight difference and variation in the way it was constructed and realize it came from another reality within this galaxy. That day may come, and therefore vindicating what we're experiencing with the Mandela effect. I mean, there's a lot of, like, it's important to realize that our soul is fractured and splintered. All souls are, all living things have a soul, and they're fractured and splintered. And when I came to that realization, obviously by what we're experiencing, I right after I came to that realization, I found out that there's a certain, I don't know if you'd call them religious organization, but there's certain organizations that actually promote that. And it's been, Eastern religions and things like that. And I never realized that. So basically, you can go to those people and say, you're absolutely correct. Our soul is splintered and fractured, and we know that because the Mandela effect is revealing that. I mean, when we shift into these other versions of ourselves, they obviously had a soul, and when that happens, the people that look at you or the people around you, they don't say you're different or anything, unless you go rambling on about the Mandela effect. They'll think you're crazy. Other than that, but you're exactly the same. Every version of yourself had a portion of your soul in it. I mean, it's obvious. So, indeed, our soul is splintered and fractured. That's the secret that's being revealed, the sacred secret. That not only do we have a soul that's incredible, but it's fractured and splintered. And sometimes people get like offended by that. That I only have one soul. It's like, well, it does. The fact that you have a fractured and splintered soul doesn't make it not unique or one. It's all still together and combined as one soul, one you, within, who knows, a billion. Let's just say 25,000 realities. Just for the sake of reference. You know, it's just incredible. It still makes you one. It doesn't matter how many replica versions of yourself there are. They're all, like, every portion of your soul, like I said, obviously is experiencing the same thing. And if you think that you're the one behind the driver's seat, all this, you're not. Because once you think that, then every every portion of your soul that's been with you since you were born, we were unaware of it, is going to think the same thing. They're going to think they're the soul A, because I always used to refer to myself as soul A in replica version of myself, so it's such a number or whatever. But every replica version of yourself, or of myself during that time, was thinking they too were soul A, or the driving soul force, and so on. So quite obviously, our soul is splintered and fractured. It doesn't matter how many portions there are. We get to experience, realize that that's happening. We're still oblivious to what our other soul portions are doing, other than the fact that they're doing exactly what you're doing, and you're doing exactly what they're doing. You know what I mean? It's incredible. Your soul portion is somewhere in that full circle, and none of the connected soul portions are number one or number two or the last one. It's all one. It's really incredible. I liken it to a film. Each frame in the film is a reality, different reality with you. Basically, there may be realities where they're a step ahead of you, and there's the realities where they're a step behind you. That's why we have deja vu. And another reason we know that our soul portions are connected, even though we're oblivious to this, we don't know what they're doing, we don't know where they are, they're still connected. And we know this simply because we need REM sleep. I bring it up all the time, how important it is. That's why we need it. The Mandela effect has answered why we need REM sleep. Because we have countless, who knows how many soul portions that are connected constantly on a subconscious level, constantly. Not a second, it's constant. And we know that there may be realities that are a step behind us and realities a step ahead of us, simply because we know the times vary. And also, that has to be what happened. That's why we're able to walk. That's why we're fluent. That's why we can practice and perfect things. Because there's versions ahead of you and behind you. And we know this because the distances involved, the vast distances, even though there's that immediate response in the quantum entanglement, it's immediate as we see it. But on a galactic scale, there has to be this delay, even though it's immediate. There's, it's, that's why it's so hard to talk about it because it sounds like you're double talking. You know, it's crazy. But there's certainly a delay. And the only reason we can say that there's certainly a delay is because of the fact that everybody at some point or another in their life experienced deja vu. That's proof, that so the Mandela effect is vindicating and answering a lot of questions that many of us had that science still has. And it's like, what do? You go around, you can't, it's like the Mandela effect is filling us with so much incredible knowledge. How do you share it to the academia? Um, it's just remarkable. You can't. It's just how do you go walk up to some scientist and say, say a scientist you've seen on shows and things like that, or I'd love to go up to my Kaku because I watch him a lot. He's my favorite astrophysicist. I'd love to just go up to him and say, sir, I've witnessed at least 100 replica versions of you in 100 different realities doing this show. And at that time, while I'd be talking to him, there's multiple other unknown numbers of realities where I'm doing the exact same thing with the exact same person, but a different reality and a different versions of yourself and that person. That's, how do you tell? I'd love to just see what kind of response he would have. Hey, we have a parallel existence on a multitude of Earths, and I've seen you in multiple realities. How do you tell somebody that? And it's not, even though they're not affected with the Mandela effect, it doesn't mean that they don't have multiple realities. They do. All life does. Again, it always comes back to that. The blade of grass, the tree, everything, they all have a parallel existence. The fly, the things that creatures like a spider leave behind, the web on the wall. Even though it's an inanimate object, it still has a parallel existence. Isn't that incredible? The automobiles that are made at the factory are done in this parallel, realities. So when your car is going to, for the most part, be the same. Like, for example, my truck I bought from a friend of mine, and I remember when he bought it, and the reality where this portion of my soul originated, it was white. But in these realities, it's always a light gray. So for the most part, a lot of things are going to be parallel, even inanimate objects. It's incredible. And the fly on the wall, everything. If you watch anything, insect, fly, ant walking around or flying or doing whatever, they're doing that in every single reality. That's a quantum entanglement. It's amazing. To see this and witness it, and once you realize what's going on, it is very exciting. It's almost like we're all being taught, by experiencing it, and then once you start understanding the lessons that we're all getting, simply by shifting into other realities, that's a lesson and a soul purification. The more that goes on, and the more that you have a better understanding and a positive attitude, then you know that all the other replica versions of yourself, all the other soul portions of your soul are thinking the same thoughts. And once that happens, it's inconceivable and miraculous what's going on when you think about it. And I think about it every day. And I take the lessons every day, and realizing, and again, it's very powerful, and it can also have, a reverse effect. That's why you have to really guard against being negative in any way, shape, or form. It's hard. I mean, I get melancholy from time to time, but when you're in those kind of moods or that sort of valley, you think about all your other selves being in that predicament, and then you work on all, getting out, and getting out of that situation and being in more positive, and then take, I always say it, it's just no reason to get homesick or anything, because we're always here. This is your home. It's incredible when you think about it. This replica version of yourself was always here, doing exactly what you were doing, or all along, you've been doing what this version of yourself is doing. It's incredible. All along, who would have ever figured? That's what's so incredible about the Mandela effect. And it's just something that has never happened before. Obviously, it's happened in recent history to people, certain people, but on a scale like it is now, on a global scale, of course, very small percentage. I'm guessing between 1 and 10% at the most of the entire population is affected. That's why it's so confusing and perplexing, because most of the people around us still have the portion of their soul they were born with. So they obviously can't understand what we're going through. So the best thing we can do is just keep taking lessons, keep understanding what's going on. Again, nobody told me what's going on. To me, it was extremely obvious when you start eliminating things. Start eliminating things that are impossible, like their body changing overnight, like the earth itself changing overnight and changing locations overnight, the distances that are inconceivable. These things are impossible. So what else could it be? It has to be spiritual, which it is. That's why I consider it a miracle, because it's highly spiritual. And that's why I think it's real. That's why one of the reasons I deleted and cleaned up my other channel is because it needs, if it's spiritual, and it maybe never did happen in all of human history before. Perhaps our ancestors knew about it. I kind of doubt it, but they'd have then something like this would have had to happen. But I believe this is the first time anything like this has happened. So that being the case and that being spiritual, it's kind of, again, without being religious and theocratic, it's a very holy thing. So you got to be real careful. That's why I was concerned. I was maybe overcounting on the earths and things like that, and asking for money in certain videos and things like that. It wasn't pure enough. It wasn't. That's why I think it's not important. The count of the earth or the count of the realities is not important. What's important is what it's revealing. Again, it's simply put, it's revealing things that have always been. Even the dinosaurs had a parallel existence. All history, otherwise we wouldn't be here. It's as simple as that. Everything has been parallel all along, from atoms to constellations and everything in between. Everything. This probably happened in every reality. It may not have happened on the outer reaches, because it seemed like out there it was just, you know what I mean? I didn't start noticing drastic differences until I came to these Orion dwarfers. Now, it's always been like this here. Things like this always happen here. They've been spraying aerosols in the sky for decades here. They didn't start doing that in a reality, I recall, like 7 years ago. They started doing it, and it started causing an uproar. But they had to do it out there because they were doing it in here. I think they need to do it in here, but they didn't need to do it out there, but they were doing it in the realities on the super Earths, on the outer reaches of the Sagittarius arm. But it seemed less, you didn't see things like this. That's why when you come into these realities, you think, wow, the end of the world's coming, because it's so drastically different. Clouds are lower. All kinds of things are so different in this reality. But again, it's so unusually similar. That's the important thing. That's the cool thing about history. Things were different throughout history, but the outcome remained the same. And that's true with everything. My interest is World War II battles. They varied considerably from reality to reality, especially from these recent realities compared to the reality I recall and being thoroughly studied many, many subjects, including the Panama Canal, which I'm so glad I did because I know, Panama Canal is so drastically different in these realities. It's unbelievable. But I was so glad, it's again, don't start thinking that your memory's gone crazy like they want you to think. It didn't. The reality you remember in your life you remember existed, and it's still there. There's just another portion of your soul in that reality, that replica version of yourself where this portion of your soul originated, and they're experiencing the same thing you are at this Mandela effect. But it's just, it's very. That's why we shouldn't. I mean, I started noticing Earth changes. Not as soon as we hit these Orion dwarfers, and it's just remarkable what goes on here. I mean, what the heck is that thing, really? You know what I mean? It's like, looks like another moon, you know? And then you see, there's something going on in these solar systems. I don't know. But again, whatever happens to this solar system in this reality is going to happen to the solar system on the outer reaches. That's why we know nothing happened to those Earths. They're still there. Because, whatever happens to those Earths is going to happen to these Earths. And the reason why we know that is because if you look at history, even the weather history, there was a specific date that I remember vividly, 8/8/88. October 8th, 1988 was the first night game at Wrigley Field. And it was during a severe drought. That summer it was a severe drought. And wouldn't you know, it rained on that day. And that happened in every reality. Isn't that something? So even the weather is parallel. And earthquakes are parallel. Like regardless of where New Zealand is, in any reality, if an earthquake happens in New Zealand, it happens to all of the New Zealands in every reality. So you can look at history of geological events and weather events and realize that they happen in every reality. That's why there's so many things that can make it perplexing, but you have to realize that's the important thing of it all, is that quantum entanglement being maintained at all times as much as possible is going to cause every reality to be virtually identical, except for things like you could tell you're in a different reality, obviously, but this version of yourself, it was always like this, but they're in another reality and everything like that. But the big thing, like I said, is it's just unusually similar, everything. So, but anyway, that the important thing is take the Mandela effect for what it is. It's a teaching tool. Nobody's teaching me. And I think I figured it out. I'm not claiming that I have all the answers or anything, because the answers are right there in front of all of our faces. They're there to see for anybody. I sometimes I get comments that they still think it's a dimensional thing. You have to remember that this quantum entanglement doesn't. The dimensions are separate, and so is the quantum entanglement in each realm. There's no way they can intermingle, just like we couldn't intermingle with another replica version of ourselves, simply because it would be impossible. Because if you took a spaceship and were capable of going 5 light years away to another reality that exists in this dimension, to go visit yourself, it won't happen, because when you go, all the other replica versions of yourself are gonna go as well. To search for themselves in another reality. So you know what I mean? It's crazy. But there's no way you can coordinate and orchestrate that. Oh, you stay home, this reality and this portion of your soul stay home, and I'll just do it. That quantum entanglement prohibits that. Things like that will never be able to run in to another replica version of ourselves, not simply because at the moment they're way too far away. Impossible. It's virtually impossible. But say if it ever was possible, it would still be prohibited, and it would never happen. That's why when we listen for signals from other civilizations in other realms in space and another planet, which is Mandela Effect showing that we're the number one show in the Milky Way galaxy. Um, those other beings that claim that they're aliens from another planet, and they point up to the Orion's belt or the Perseus, and say that they came from there. Well, sure they did, but they failed to tell you that you're there too. you know, because their reality is parallel, and they would love us to think that they come from another world, but they don't. They come from another dimension that's parallel as well, and the dimensions cannot intermingle. As far as what we're experiencing, of course, our soul could go in that other dimension, and usually does when we die before, and then eventually gets rebirthed. That's when only time our soul is in that dimension. We might have portions of our soul in that dimension in other realities, but they'll never. We don't know it, and it's not in this reality because we're alive, and this portion of our soul is alive. That portion is going to remain in limbo until all the other portions are released from the bodies or avatars or whatever, and then put in their spirit realm. Again, remember the spirit realm is parallel too. So each portion of your soul, once every portion of your soul is in an appropriate dimension or realm after death, then it can get rebirthed. Again, say this with confidence. Look at Nelson Mandela. We know he perished in the 80s in some realities. So what happened to the portion of his soul in those realities where he was executed or died from a sickness in prison? It had to go into that heaven, in that realm, in that reality, and remain in limbo. And he was probably those portions of your soul. Maybe people. That's why some people have more ESP. That's why some people are able to, what do they call it, viewers. Those people who are able to see, look into anywhere around the earth and see things. Maybe they have more portions of their soul in that realm because they didn't exist in some realities, and they're unconsciously connected to oblivious to it, but they have portions of their soul that see all, that are in that incredible place, and they're regardless, they're still linked subconsciously, constantly, even it's just incredible. So that's the only time you can have, going to be in that other dimension. But all the realities are in the same dimension, And getting back to Nelson Mandela, that might have been why he ascended to presidency of South Africa and other realities, like this one, for example. And the one I recall as well, reality I came from, where this portion of my soul originated, Nelson Mandela ascended to presidency as well. But I know I have versions of myself in realities where he perished in prison. I know. Because I had a subscriber named Jose Martinez who saw me in Denver, Colorado in the 40s, and he had no idea who I was, and I didn't, and he had no idea I was living there at the time, but I was. And he made the date, and I knew it was like an evacuation thing. We had to go somewhere. I forgot what it was, something stupid. But he saw me there, and I was there, but not in his reality where he originated from. So that's what's cool. That taught me that, wow, I'm in realities that I'm oblivious to, where Nelson Mandela perished in prison. I'm oblivious to it, but I know I'm there because we're in every reality. but the Mandela Effect showing that we're still connected to those portions of our soul, even though we don't know it. It's a subconscious connection. That, again, REM sleep, extremely important. I don't know how long this video is, probably too long, but I can go on for hours about this. And it's just, who do you talk to about it, That's why I do these videos. It's therapeutic for me. And also it's talking about it with people of like, they're experiencing the same thing. Not only is it therapeutic, but it's very gives you more knowledge. Just talking about it, the knowledge just soaks in. Plus, you know that the other portions of your soul are doing the exact same thing in their realities, exactly what you are, or you're doing exactly what they are doing. That's an incredible thing. So again, from atoms to constellations. I thank you for watching, and we'll talk at you later. Love you.